There are things that we're trying to do. We've got a BME manifesto for the first time is going to be launched next week. We've got some structural things that we're doing, but at the end of the day, it requires, we're not going to speak on your behalf. At the same time, there is a slight problem here as well. It doesn't mean that a white cannot represent a black, that a black cannot represent a white. So let's not just overindulge in the politics of race. What it's about is that I'm proud of the people in my party, actually. The amount of people who will strike against Islamophobia, they're not themselves Muslims. And I think we need that degree of inclusivity. At the same time, what we're failing on is we're not actually properly, visibly representing the society that we purport to serve. And that is important. That's one ingredient.
Shabana, well, it's interesting what Gopi said about, she's worried about, and I don't wish to put words into your mouth there, but worried about actually you becoming part of the system. So you go in and you stop thinking about Asian issues. You just kind of almost merge into this kind of establishment.
I'm glad you asked that, because that's
mind.
Exactly the point I wanted to come back on in the question, this idea that somehow we emulate a lived experience that is not our own. And I would like to challenge that, if I may, respectfully, just on the basis of my own experiences. One of the first Muslim women ever to be elected to Parliament in 2010. I'm one of 3. Priti and I are one of 5 Asian women for the first time ever elected to the House of Commons. My lived experience as an Asian woman, as a Muslim woman, as an inner city Brummie, comes through everything I say and do in Parliament, and that is what I strive for, because I'm here as a voice for the people that I represent, but I also reflect back my own personal lived experience, whether that's challenging the government's record on the Trojan horse scandal here in Birmingham, or sticking up for my Muslim and my Jewish constituents, and speaking for myself as a practicing Muslim when it comes to rights to access non-stunned slaughtered meat. So I have a record in Parliament, actually, of sticking up for the rights of the people I represent, but also reflecting my own lived experience. And I think that's really important. And I think you should just go and have a look at what minority MPs have been saying and doing on these issues. It's on Hansard, it's on Parliament TV. Have a look for yourselves.
Why has your party put up only one BAME candidate in a seat that could be described as winnable, where an MP is retiring? Why have you only put one?
Well, look, we've got 16 BME MPs that have served in the 2010 to 2015 Parliament. We've got 44 BME candidates this time.
But only one
in a seat.
Yeah. The Tories have got 6.
In
Lib Dems have got
Hampstead
1.
and Kilburn. But also, actually, we've got 16 in seats that are our target seats as well. People who we believe are going to win.
One?
I think that in the last last round of selections, we have seen a little bit of a backward step, actually. So up until that point, we were doing far better than all of the other parties. I do worry that we haven't made enough.
How can you be taking a backward step when you have more BAME MPs than any other party?
Because our expectation of ourselves is that we go further and we go faster. And whilst we are still on,
you just said you take a backward step.
No, that's what I'm saying. Our expectation is we want to go further and faster. And I worry that actually in this last round of selections, we selected for key seats and target seats early, and lots of our BME candidates went for those seats to begin with, so they were already selected by the time other safer seats came up. That's something that's structural in the Labour Party. We must never let that happen again.
Okay, all right, 5 years' time, let's see. Questions about this? There's a gentleman over there with the glasses. There you go.
Yeah, my name is Mukhtar Ali. I'm from Bradford. I think what's at the question I asked is that's the heart of the matter. That most of the candidates, although they put themselves forward for all parties, but the parties within themselves actually have blockage in terms of their policy. You've got to try and see what type of candidates go through. And you've got to ask the question, do we want the candidates like recently who had 2, which in the media, for example, Dudley, Amin Afzal, the way he was presenting the media, what he was trying to do, arrange with the EDL meetings. Also the Tower Hamlet mayor. So there are many of the candidates in different parties which actually destroy the image of the community when it goes into the system. And also many of the candidates, either at local or national level, are we choosing the right people in this system? Are we abusing the system? There are a lot of people who cannot get selected or get a look at because the whole swathes of the parties either have been taken over by families or they've been taken over by certain groups. So other people cannot get into it. And I think that's something that people need to be able to encourage younger people, people who can stand up for principles, rather than simply because of the colour or race.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's go to Tariq Mahmood from UKIP on this one.
One thing that I would say in respect to UKIP, we have 24 prospective parliamentary candidates from an ethnic minority background, more than the Green Party. We've made inroads in terms of engaging with the ethnic minority communities. We have a transparent system of selection. I myself was selected in Stoke-on-Trent South, which has a very small Asian population. It's important that all of us engage more and more at grassroots levels to try and work with mainstream political parties to try and work and progress. And if individuals who are able and capable to stand as candidates, they should be progressed and should have the opportunity to stand as prospective parliamentary candidates.
Does Nigel Farage want to abolish racial discrimination legislation?
The comment that Nigel Farage made was that 50 years ago there was a need for race relations, that we've made progress, and the progress is, if we look at the panel today, we see an ethnic minority.
Well, this is for the BBC Asian Network. I mean,
five candidates.
You don't get any points for being Asian on the BBC Asian Network.
Well, we've made progress. We've made progress. We've had
one High Court judge
since 1892.
Supreme Court judges, they're all white. 11 of them are men. Of the FTSE 100 companies, 289 people in posts, the top 3 posts, of which 10 of them are BAME. Progress? We don't need the legislation?
Equal opportunities, fairness exists in British society. When our parents or grandparents came from Pakistan or the subcontinent, there was a specific need then to have specific Race Relation Act in place.
No longer.
Now we are second generation, third generation. We've had the same opportunities as our white counterparts who are also British. There's a fair system in place in terms of equal opportunities.
OK, Priti Patel wants to go in, then we'll go back to the audience.
There's a slight irony here, actually, when we look at the Asian community and their contribution to a huge public service such as the National Health Service, and yet we are not fully represented, as you've said, on the boards, in the judiciary, in certain echelons of British society. So much more needs to be done there.
But
and
what can be done? Because we've heard this many times. Do you believe, because Sadiq Khan has said that he believes that it targets and quotas. Nothing is off the table, Sadiq Khan said. Shadow Justice.
Well,
do you agree with that?
I take the view targets have a role to play here. I really do. Women on boards are a very good example, actually, getting more females onto the boards of major companies. You know, it takes time because you need the pool of people to come through as well. And I actually think it's incumbent on really a panel like this, people, when they're elected, at whatever level, to make stronger representations and to be more vocal and more supportive. And certainly I know, you know, both Shabana and I, in our work in Parliament as well, we have done that. But of course, the more of us that are elected, the more of us we can, you know, go out there and speak and be champions for this as well.
OK. Young lady there with her hand up. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Kavita Sharma and I represent the UK Youth Parliament. So there's not, you know, enough ethnic minorities within Parliament as MPs. So and there's not enough getting selected, and this is what has been coming from what you guys have been saying. So do you think the young Asian people feel that they're not represented in... Sorry, let me start to say this question again. Do you feel that Asian people feel that politicians just don't represent them? They feel that they're just going to be totally ignored? Because why are Asian people, you know, why are they not getting represented? Why are they not running for Parliament? Do they, you know, why is it apathetic? I just feel that they're not being represented by politicians, that politicians just ignore Asian views.
Right, Zuffar Haq.
You know, I've stood in a seat a couple of times now, and my party said to me, go to the other side of the country, stand in a place where you've got a better chance. And I said, no, I'm not interested in doing that. I love the area where I live. I'm passionate about improving the area, and I'll want to fight where I am and stand as an MP there. And if I get in, all well and good. I'll work hard to try and get in. And it's important that we bring people up from the younger generation and get them involved in politics.
But then how? Because you guys haven't been saying, how are you getting people engaged in politics? You haven't talked about
what we've got
solutions.
to try and do, and what I've been trying to do is engage them in becoming councillors. I've got a couple of councillors in my area who are encouraged to stand, and we want more females involved in politics, especially from the Asian background.
Zuffar, can I interrupt you? Do you think that the elders in the Asian community warmly welcome young voices coming in?
No, they don't.
Do you
no,
think
no,
that?
well, because I have the same problem. They don't, because there is
You being, of course, so young.
yeah,
It's
well,
been terrible for you.
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
There is a problem because we have two major established parties where almost 450 seats don't change hands from the two major parties. If you get selected from one of those parties, you have got a very good chance of getting in. And sadly, for people from the other smaller parties, it's much more difficult for them to get elected, and they have to work much, much harder. But it doesn't detract from the fact that we need to encourage people to go out there and stand and fight to try and get selected. The selection is the biggest important factor in those kind of seats. And sadly, you've got to have a membership that supports you. You've got to have a built-up rapport with all those people. So when you go to become a candidate, they support you. And we need to encourage more and more people to do that in those winnable seats so that they can have access to that success. Because there's enough talented people from our communities, more than enough, but they're just not getting the avenues and the inroads to actually get there.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time on this particular subject. Yasmin Khan, who do we have next?
OK, so we've talked about immigration. We've talked about BME representation. Here we have Nadeem Hussain, who's 42, from Birmingham, for our next question.
Assalamu alaikum to you all. As British Muslims, we feel we're caught between a rock and a hard place practicing our Islam. How will your party, if elected a seat in Parliament, advocate for our Islamic beliefs as well as our British values?
Priti Patel.
Well, I take the view when it comes to the British Muslim community, when it comes to Islam, that actually it's not about looking at communities and culture and religion separately. We have to be tolerant in our country, there's no doubt about that, and embrace all faiths. I think that's absolutely vital, that is right and proper. And certainly from my political party's point of view, we have representation, small representation from the Muslim community in some of our MPs. But again, it's about having that voice, it's about having that advocacy as well, to support your community, to support your values, and actually to be advocates for you too. I see no difference between faith groups at all. It is about being a strong country, yes, supporting each other's values and shared values as well. And I think respect for each other's values and tolerance is absolutely key to this.
But Eric Pickles didn't send a letter to the Hindu or the Sikh community, did he? He sent a letter to the Muslim community, didn't he?
That's right.
But also, at the same time, that letter was sent out there with a very particular reason, obviously, at the time when he sent it. There's no doubt about that. But this isn't about...
But was it necessary? The Muslim community, are they not aware of the dangers of extremism? It's, after all, it's their children that could be lured into it. Do you need a cabinet minister to be sending a letter to the Muslim community asking the kind of questions that Eric Pickles did? Do you think that was helpful?
Look, I take the view, I mean, as I've just said personally, and I'm not going to speak for Eric Pickles, this is about respect and tolerance and shared values, I think, of all our communities. And within the British Muslim community, obviously when it comes to